G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the YouTube channel. How we all doing today? It is a scary weather day because if you look in the distance, it looks goddamn miserable over there. So hopefully we don't get stuck in any sort of rain this video. But I thought I'd do a cheeky little topic one because it seems to be asked quite a lot. Now, it's a valid question. Obviously, if you're living in Australia, it doesn't apply to you because we don't get the actual bike in question. And that is, should you buy a Rebel 300 or a Rebel 500? Now, like I stated, Australia doesn't get the 300 because, well, the country made the decision for you, right? And that's pretty much how I'd stick with that decision, honestly. I don't see any reason to buy a Rebel 300 myself, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have its place. Obviously, in my life, in my living situation, where like my country-wise, just saw these cars giving me the chasers. But like if you're riding around in your typical suburb area, there's no real need for a Rebel 300. It's about 20 horsepower down on the Rebel 500. Now, forgive me if I'm a little coffee today. I'm still getting over that bloody sickness. But the Rebel 400, the Rebel 300 has about 27, 28 horsepower, give or take, whereas the Rebel 500 has about 47 horsepower, okay? It's a little bit of a difference, it is. Now, sure, you can argue that both bikes will still hit the speed limit just fine, so what's the point of extra horsepower? But sometimes having more does not always mean that it's necessary, but in smaller bikes, I'd say you kind of want that extra little bit of horsepower because 20 horsepower, 27, it's not very much. 20, 30 horsepower, those bikes are quite small. You get into that 50 horsepower, look, they're still not fast by any means, but they do the job. Top speed of the Rebel 500 is only like 20 miles an hour more than the Rebel 300. Now look, they're cruisers, they're not made for top speed machines, okay? So you can forgive it having a slow top speed, but it's about the torque and the power to get to set speed. So the Rebel 500 has a lot more torque than the Rebel 300 does, which is a big difference, okay? Now, you might not think it is, but having two cylinders spinning versus the smaller single cylinder, if the single cylinders were both were both 500s, even though it's a 471, I mean, then torque different. But because they're like the same cylinder size, basically, man, it's just half of it. It's quite yucky. It is starting to rain. This is not my favorite. Or I can make it through there, but I'm not going to. So having the two cylinders, well, for one, it means if one cylinder dies, it's going to be a lot more safety in one of those far environments if you get stranded. So if you have one cylinder and one cylinder dies, well, unfortunately your bike's incapacitated then, isn't it? But if you've got two cylinders and one cylinder dies, well, look, you might be able to move to a safe place, but it's still not great. Shit, man. Now, look, the only time I can see if you're living in a city that's incredibly, incredibly busy, especially if you're in like a Southeast Asian country or India or something, the Rebel 300 is absolutely the move for you. There's no real need for the 500 in those places, man. Trust me, you're not going to hit the speed limit even if you tried. So, having the extra torque's nice and all, but you can get away with having the 300. But like if you're riding around suburbs or if you're going around like a lot of freeways, you're not going to want that 300 and its lack of power. You're really going to want that extra little bit of oomph that the 500 can offer, man. And this is from someone who's had a 500 the whole time. I've ridden bigger bikes, I've ridden smaller bikes. Trust me, you don't want that small thumper. You want that bigger engine. Big being a subjective term in this one, exclusively connected to the bikes in question, because neither of these bikes have big engines. Yeah, I'm not really happy with this weather business. It's not supposed to rain this week, but here we are. Now, this next point is really only going to affect you if you're interested in changing your exhaust, which I know most of you guys are, but if you're not, this one you can sort of gloss over, because the stock exhaust on both bikes is fine. But if you're changing the exhaust on the Rebel 300, I don't know if it's been changed. I'm pretty sure it's still the same, where you're actually taking the cat out when you do the slip-on change. So your bike's going to get much louder real quick. And the thing about having a single cylinder that small it drones heavily when it's like that. So unfortunately, that means your exhaust is going to get very annoying very fast. Whereas if you had the Rebel 500, for instance, the exhaust note is probably a little bit more tamer, you know, in the long run, because there's two things going on. It's a little bit more rhythmic, whereas the Thumper it gets old fast. Now, I'm not really big on the small bikes straight piping. I think it's quite stupid. But hey, man, if you like that thing, you can do it. But if you don't like it, well, shit, it's gonna go horribly wrong for you. What is this weather? Bloody shit, man. It's not supposed to be raining. You love to see it sometimes, don't you? I will make it do this just fine. So if you're riding on the 500, you can do that a lot faster. If you're doing that on the 300, well, unfortunately, it's going to be a lot less interesting of a acceleration, that's for sure. You'll probably still be doing it. So that's the one main downside of riding the 300 versus the 500, man. Honestly, there's not really big differences before that. The main differences are purely just, oh well, the power. And if your power is what you care about, well, you're going to notice it. So unfortunately, that is your big difference. And I did not expect to get stuck in a rainstorm, so now I'm going to get absolutely fucking drenched. Oh well, such is life sometimes. Just what the doctor ordered. Well, this is exactly where we're going now, so I guess we're sticking with it. But ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much all the points you really need to know. Besides the last one being the weight difference, the Rebel 500 is going to be a little bit heavier than the Rebel 300, okay? And that's pretty much it. Besides those differences, there's not much more to go. Like shit, of course, you got your powers down on the 300, you got your exhaust notes down on the 300, your weight is up on the 300, meaning it's lower, so that's your one benefit. Your price is different, and if those things aren't the issue, well then there's no issue. You should not be buying a Rebel 300 in any other instance, man. So that's my TED Talk, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to go endure this weather now because I have to. The raindrops are quite large. It's quite painful kind of rain at the moment. So I'm going to go enjoy this now, ladies and gents. I hope you've enjoyed. Please take it easy, keep it cheesy, and have a good day. Peace. Bye.